Hola amigos, bien o no. Entonces, saludos desde Medellín y hoy en nuestro proyecto día 45, day 45. Entonces, el medio punto, halfway. Y bien tiempo para pensar poco más con el proceso en total y poco como pensar con el por qué y cómo. So today, here we are, it's day 45 of a sunny day in Medellin. So we're halfway through. So a good time to reflect a bit on the how and why, por qué, cómo, of this type of project. And see how things have been going. So, well, for me, yes, some of the grammar, or the finer points of grammar, shall we say, the Spanish grammar, are still eluding me a bit. They're a little bit tricky, but in a practical sense, in terms of just being able to express opinions and hold general conversations, I'm happier that I'm improving a bit more. That my confidence level is certainly a lot higher, and I've had a fair amount of practice at reading aloud different texts on different topics. So I feel a lot happier about that compared to when I was at the beginning. So for the next half of this project, the next 45 days, it's going to be a little bit more of what we've been doing so far. But I'm hoping to start seeing some improvements in my memory of some of these phrases and sentences I'm looking to use, so I don't have to feel I'm revising them too often. I'm hopeful soon I should be able to start seeing some good progress with that. But again, when we come back to the why and how of it all, if perhaps in what you're studying you're finding this is a bit of you're a bit stuck with it, you're not finding progress perhaps, and you're starting to wonder why you're doing it at all, maybe go back a bit more to the beginning of it. The way I looked at it was, obviously, when I'm not making these videos, often I'm doing classes with some of my students, one-to-one, so we tackle problems that they're having with their English more directly. So in this sense, I have to answer the how part of the question. For them is sort of like a, how do we get past this problem? And also I'm answering a why question from them, like, why do we say that? Why do you use that phrase and not a different one? Why is it spelt like that but said like this? These type of questions. But my problem is, how do I explain it? And this is some of the things we've covered in the videos here. Sometimes I have to look at words that sound similar to help them with their pronunciation. Sometimes I have to get them around problems with similar sounding phrases or words, or the sounds in combination they have trouble with, so to separate them out to show them that they can say the sound. Sometimes we have to look at rephrasing completely as a better way of making it easier for them to say things. Sometimes we're looking at maybe summarising more clearly what it is they need to say, giving them a more essential vocabulary, not necessarily a straight translation from Spanish. And sometimes we just have to say, that's just the way it is in English. Because it's true, sometimes it's very hard to explain why we spell it this way but say it that way. But when you look at that in total, because you're looking at like a how do you explain it or why, then you realise actually you understand more about this than you think. And if you look at the way you perhaps would explain your own language to someone else that doesn't know your language or is new to it or trying to learn it, once you've tried explaining what you think is a fairly simple sentence or simple conversation, but you try explaining that to someone that's not familiar with your language, you'll start to realize you understand more about your language than you think, because you have to kind of break it down in order to explain it. You have to take it apart, look at different sounds, different patterns in the language, different phrases you use. And once you get used to looking at your own language in this way, when you come back to study a different language, a new language for you, you can use the same type of techniques on that new language. So if I assume that you're watching this because you're learning English and Spanish is your first language, take some examples of something, a conversation you normally have in Spanish, maybe fairly regularly, a fairly standard type of conversation, and try and explain that, or think about how you would explain that to someone who doesn't speak Spanish. How do you get them to understand it? And hopefully then you'll start to see some patterns in your own language, different sounds, ways you might look at how to explain that or express that. And then when you come back and looking at English, again, perhaps then you will look at it in a more practical way, in the sense of looking for useful patterns, phrases that repeat, phrases that are used more often, and therefore perhaps more useful than others, patterns in the sounds, these kind of things, how the punctuation perhaps in a sentence helps you with how you control inflection or the tone of voice, all these kind of things. So really, in that sense, if you start answering the why question, why do you say it like that, often it gives you the how to do it, the how answer. So that's my reflection for the day. If you get a bit stuck with it in terms of why are you doing this, go back and have a look at your own language and try and explain that to someone that doesn't know it. Once you've had a look at that and think, how do you have to explain it? How do you have to unpack, take apart, or in some ways dissect your language to explain it? Maybe that will help you look anew at the English perhaps you're trying to learn now, and help you to see more clearly a way to understanding it through patterns in vocabulary. Look at it more minimally in terms of what you actually need to use for you to speak, rather than what you need to understand when you're listening, and see if that will give you a way to maybe focus your efforts a bit more clearly. So that's my thought for the day. Look at the why, and maybe that'll give you the how. So I hope that's useful. So wherever you are, I hope you two are enjoying an evening as splendid as we have here. And I'll see you soon. Cheerio for now.